Living Clean, Living Well is a presentation of the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness and is brought to you by Freedom from Addiction.
You're watching Living Clean, Living Well, live here on CTS. So glad to see you. My name is Teresa Cruz, and I'll be your host for tonight, as I am always. Good to see everybody. It is December the 1st, and this will kick off a month-long series of shows that we're going to be doing about coping with the holidays. Let's face it, life has got a lot of challenges for us to deal with, and the month of December seems to add to it. My panelists for this evening, Dr. Vera Tarman.
Hello.
Good to see you. And Dee Christensen joins us, Editor-in-Chief from Recovery Wire magazine. Good to have you aboard again, Dee.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
So, Dr. Tarman, let's start things off about the month of December and the challenges that it brings.
Yeah, well, you know, the month of December is the time of temptations, the beginning of temptations, and people who are in recovery are going to be faced with the offers for special drinks, special foods, all sorts of things that might easily derail a person.
Dee?
You know, there's a reason we call it the silly season. This is the time to utilize whatever coping mechanisms that you can find. So Recovery Wire is covering a lot of that this season. Yeah.
Our toll-free lines are going to be open to you right away. As always, we are here for any general questions that you may have, as well as on topic. Maybe there's some things that you've done to cope through the month of December, going to all those parties, and like Dr. Tarman says, coping with all the temptations that are out there. I mean, you can't shut your life down. It's important to live your life, but it's also important, too, that, you know, that you stay on track. And tonight's show and the series of shows that we're going to be doing throughout the month of December, that is going to be our goal for you. Just before we get started, I just wanted to tell you about the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness's annual fundraising drive. It is Derringer's 13 Days of Christmas, and it kicked off today. This is just a fabulous, fabulous fundraiser that John Derringer and the Q107 Morning Crew have done for us for a few years now. They have raised millions for people that are struggling throughout, you know, with life, with abuse and bad things happening in their life. And it's wonderful that we are able to raise funds and toys for children that are caught up in bad situations. It's just an absolutely wonderful time of year for all of us. So folks in the Southern Ontario region can listen live on Q107. And if you're joining us from across Canada, you can listen on 107.com. It is also a bit of a very proud week for me, and if you just indulge me for a second, I had delivery of my child in the form of a book. The Incredibility Factor came out this past week. This is the book that I have been working on for the last 2 years, intensely for the last 6 months. I have a multimedia venture, and we talk about entrepreneurs, and we talk about people that have come from humble beginnings and have gone on to great success. And so this is what I've been working on when I'm not hosting Living Clean, Living Well. And I had some big news this week because we launched on Amazon.com, and we shot right up to #1 bestseller. So it was
That's great.
Yeah, I know. I was really
exciting.
thrilled. So I just wanted to share my good news with you. And if you would like a copy of this book, if you are so inspired to maybe start your own business, you can find it on Amazon.com at theincredibility.com. Factor. So at Amazon.com. So anyway, folks, let's talk about coping with the holidays. And Recovery Wire magazine has brought in 10 top tips on what we can do to get through the month of December. So here we are, the top 10 ways to cope through the holidays. #1 on this list is laughter. Dr. Tarman?
Okay, well, laughter is an excellent way to cope with stress because it does two things. One, when you laugh, you have to breathe and you stimulate the diaphragm, which puts you into relaxation mode. That's the first thing. And then the second thing it does is it releases endorphins, and endorphins are the neurochemical that makes bad things feel good.
#2 on our list is a phone call a day. Dee?
This is about reaching out once a day to people who will offer you support and stability. It's about just getting a reminder every day that you're cared about by someone who offers you unconditional support.
Number 3 on the list, avoid stimulants.
Okay, so what kind of stimulants are we constantly bombarded with? Caffeine, sugar, chocolate, and I mean, this is a time of great anxiety, and just having these stimulants will only make you more anxious.
Number 4 on our list is sound advice. And now advice is always good, but when you take a look at sound advice, Dee, it's not quite what we think it is it?
No, sound advice is all about sound as a stimulant, and sound is a stimulant, so we're going to replace all of those loud, stimulating sounds with soothing sounds to get us through the holidays.
Like music and things like that?
Yeah, like change your alarm to a nice, soothing nature sound. Yeah, it's about reducing all of the noise clutter.
And not Christmas carols, please.
Number 5, make sure that you stick to a routine.
Okay, so one of the biggest problems with Christmas is it disrupts our routine. And for people who are in recovery, part of the problem, part of the reason, it's not just the temptations, it's the disruption to the routine. Because usually the recovery is based on routinized factors, like I go to meetings, I do this, I do that, and that's lost. So finding routine, finding an element of safety is key.
One of my favorite ones on the list is comfort, comfort, comfort.
Yeah, this is all about warm foods and fuzzy blankets and PJs. You're going to allow yourself, when you're feeling stressed out, to treat yourself the way Grandma would.
As in?
As in
Cookies, warm milk.
Yeah, warm milk and cookies and PJs.
A blanket, dear.
Yeah, a
Flannel.
nice big
Flannel.
a terry cloth onesie if you need to.
With little feet?
That's right, with the feet and the little bum patch. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Number 7, make sure that you challenge that negative self-talk that always creeps into our minds.
Negative self-talk is one of those things you don't even notice you're doing it. But you know, from the body point of view, every time you have a negative what you're doing is you're adding internal stress. And you know, Christmas is such a time of external stresses that what you want to do is soothe the internal environment. So get rid of the negative self-talk and put in positive affirmations.
And make sure, you know, they always say, raise your expectations, but maybe this time of year, Dee, you're suggesting to lower your expectations.
Absolutely. This is all about, we tell ourselves the holidays are supposed to be joyous and amazing, and this Christmas is going to be the best, and families are going to unite, and it's going to be incredible and rejoicing. And the truth is, it's just a day. So let's lower our expectations to a manageable height so we don't disappoint ourselves and stress ourselves out unnecessarily.
Number 9 on our top 10 ways to cope through the holidays is to help others.
Yes, if you help others, one of the first things that happens is you stop thinking about yourself. And when you think about yourself, there's that negative self-talk. It seems to be what always happens. So focusing on others by helping others is good. The other thing is it makes you realize that if you help somebody else, you've got something to give. So it indirectly allows you to appreciate yourself.
And number 10 on our list, reduce family stress.
There are a few really amazing things to keep in mind during this season. One of the first is there is no such thing as a super parent. There is no such thing as a super kid. We're going to set realistic standards, and we're going to choose commitments carefully. There's no reason to overextend yourselves. You have plenty of time. It's just one day. Yeah.
And there's no perfect family gathering.
No, there's no perfect. We're all a little bit crazy. That's what makes us delicious.
Like the National Lampoon Chevy
That's
Chase's
right.
Christmas, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That one cracks me up all
Me
the time.
too.
Yeah. Where such a group of characters get together and try to have that one big day. But you're so right. It's literally just a day.
It's just a day, yeah. And we do it throughout the year, you know. We set ourselves up that the weekend is going to be great, you know, and let's just stay present. Let's just enjoy the moment and set some realistic goals. And there's no reason to make it the best ever. There's no such thing. Yeah.
Dr. Tarman, in your practice at Renascent, do people come to you and talk to you about the challenges of the season?
Oh, it's a big stressor. The Christmas time is such a big stressor, and it's often the family thing.
Yeah.
You know, they're either alone and they feel their aloneness because there's the perception that everybody else has got the perfect environment and they don't, or they're in a family setting and then it's not perfect. Yeah, it's a big stressor.
And Dee, yourself, you've always been so wonderful and so honest that you are in recovery.
Yeah.
How have you been coping with the holidays?
Well, You know, what's really important is that we always talk about how stressful the holidays are, but the reality is that if you're in recovery, because so many of us struggle, there is a ton of support during the season. There are Christmas parties, there are sober Christmas gatherings, there's a ton of information. If you're searching the internet, you can go on recoverywire.com. We're going to be posting things there. There is a lot of things to do. You know, it's all about getting active and you know, and taking an active role in making sure that you're safe this season.
You know, one of the other big stresses about Christmas is the expense, you know, especially because people they think they have to buy the nicest present. And, you know, it's such a materialistic environment. People can't afford Christmas. They go into debt for Christmas.
No, that's scary too. You know, this year we decided we're putting a $15 limit. And you come up with some really creative ideas. We have a little 3-year-old nephew in our family, so we're going to spoil him, of course. But the adults, we said, why not just a fun little gift for $15? You'd be surprised what you can find.
It's too bad Honest Ed's is closing down, though, because with those $15 gifts,
not for a couple,
we need them
not
back.
for a couple of years, though, so we can still go shopping there. So now, folks, it's your turn. We're going to take our first break on Living Clean, Living Well. But when we come back, we want to hear from you. Toll-free lines are open. How are you getting through the month of December? What are your plans? What are you thinking about as we head into this month? It's going to be your turn. Our first break, we'll be right back.
It's scary to think that you're going to live the rest of your life without drugs and alcohol when it's all you've depended on. But there is hope. I knew I couldn't do it alone, and treatment allowed me the chance to ask for the help that I needed in order to believe that I could live a sober life. I got the help and support that I needed, and even now that I've left, I still have that support there.
Welcome back, everyone. My guest tonight on Living Clean, Living Well, our regular contributor, Dr. Vera Tarman, who is the medical director at Renascent, and also Dee Christensen joins us again. It's been a while. Good to see you. Editor-in-Chief from Recovery Wire magazine. And tonight we are talking about coping with the holidays. Our toll-free lines are open for you. As always, any general questions that you may have. You don't need to be on topic. It's okay. Whatever you'd like to talk about, we are here, as long as it's got something to do with addictions and substance abuse and coping with what's the stressors that are going on in your life. And we have an awful lot of resources as well. So if we can't answer your question, we can definitely get you to the people that can. So shall we open up our phone lines? We have a caller. Let's go to line 4. Calling in tonight from Toronto is Bob. Hi there, Bob. You're first up on our show tonight. Good to hear from you, and you're talking to Dr. Tarman and Dee. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello, Bob.
Hello.
I was just wondering what the qualifications are for being a sponsor. I know that you have to have been clean for a year and have been, experienced in that, whatever it may be. But I don't have any addictions, and I've been a great support to somebody important in my life, and she agrees that I'm already a sponsor. But at the same time, I think I might be, not. Like, what is it that you can actually tell me about this qualification of somebody being a sponsor?
That's a great question. Dr. Tarman, do you want to start out?
Sure. You know, as a medical director of Renascent is a place that, a rehab center that really follows the 12-step program. So I'm quite familiar with the program and the expectations. And with the sponsor, the really key thing is that the person has had the experience and can share that experience with their sponsee. They don't have to know anything more. They have to have hopefully read the book, the big book, or at least be willing to read the big book with the sponsee. But the key is that they've had that experience, they have that mutual understanding, and that they have some sobriety. They don't necessarily have to have a year of sobriety. That year is often important when you're trying to hire somebody, like at Renascent. I think you have to have 2 years of sobriety. But as long as you have some sobriety, if you have something that the person wants, and presumably a few more days of sobriety is going to be the thing. But the key is that you have that common experience, because that's what you're sharing.
So in this case, it would be good for Bob still to be there, such a tremendous support,
absolutely,
we could
yes,
tell.
yes.
But it should be somebody from the recovery world, Dee?
Yeah, I mean, these are all guidelines. There is no real fixed rule necessarily. It's not like there's a set of like intrinsic governing. These are just guidelines that we've used, but they're guidelines that we've been passing down, addict to addict, alcoholic to alcoholic. So I think the important thing is, at the end of the day, on your worst moment, you want to be reaching out to someone that knows what it's like to be in that situation and that can give you practical input as to how to get through it.
As opposed to judgmental.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so it's not to say that you can't be a sponsor if that's what you want to call yourself, but I would certainly say that if I were in your position, I would also suggest that they get a second sponsor or support person who is in their shoes. Yeah.
Does that help, Bob?
Just to a degree, because at the same time, there is no other person at this point where she can think of, and she's hitting the 90-day trigger point for her. For years and years, she's tried beyond 90 days and never made it. And I'm starting to feel that urge to just want to be there so that I can be that person to as that hand is shaking towards that use, that I could be the person to help calm that hand. But I've never been through recovery because I'm not an addict.
Right.
Yet for probably about a year, she says I've been the most important person. But it's only been the past 80 days that she's been clean. So it's going to get really tough in the next few weeks, and she knows her mind will start to play tricks on her, like really big tricks on her mind. She knows that, and she's been through it many, many years. After 3 months, she never makes it. So I'm feeling that pressure to be there, but yet there's no one else, and that's all. I've read the book, The Language of Letting Go, and other kind of support things, as well as a lot of literature on addictions and mental illness, and how mental illness and addiction is almost the same thing, or there's many, many similarities and all that. So I know how to be a good listener, but to be that sponsor, I wouldn't know how it feels to, other than be there to just hold their hand and prevent it from happening. That moment of relapse, to prevent that, like I would like to do, like some kind of a guardian angel. If I could, I would pay for a sponsor for her, but I just can't.
So where does one go to find a sponsor?
Well, here's the interesting thing. When we want to get high and drunk, let me tell you, the lengths that we can go to achieve that are phenomenal. We are the most creative human beings on the planet. So I find it very interesting that I can tell you that if one of my sponsees shared this with me, what I would say to them is, it's almost impossible not to be able to find a sponsor, especially in Toronto, Canada. You know, in any major city, the number of 12-step groups in this city is over the top. The number of 12-step groups that actually open up asking how many people in the room are willing to be temporary sponsors, where people will just throw up their hands at the beginning of the meeting, those are the things, Bob, that you wouldn't know because you haven't been in those rooms. So that's the important part about actually being someone who knows how to pass it down, who's had the experience. If you're not in the room, you don't know that. But I could tell you that you could convey to her, there are tons of meetings in this city where she can go to where people will volunteer to be her sponsor.
And the sponsor who has been through that experience would know that. Would not only know that, they'd also know that, what they probably say is, look, I don't buy that story. If you look hard enough, you'll find. But you see, you wouldn't know that, Bob, because you don't have that understanding of how somebody will just not take that extra step because they may not really want to go there.
Yeah. You know, he brought up such a good point, too, about for whatever goes on in our life, where you set a certain level in your mind of, like for Bob's friend, it's 90 days. She's never made it past 90 days.
Yeah.
Here she is at 80 days.
Yeah.
And if you set that, like, what do you do to get yourself over that plateau in your head when you're thinking, I can't get past a certain mark, a number, a date, whatever it is?
Well, I mean, what's happened there is the person has, not even realizing it's learned, it's almost operant conditioning. They've learned at 90 days, I get to relapse. It's a non-intellectual thing that happens. So somebody who knows that already would actually have to build in all sorts of safety around that 90-day mark.
And there's already a pattern emerging. If if this were my story, I would say I'm already in danger. Because rather than reaching out to the people who will be able to call me on my stuff, I'm reaching out to someone who won't be able to call me on my stuff.
Exactly.
So already there's a big red flag in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not to say, can I just say
Yeah,
this?
go for it.
It's not to say, Bob, that what you can give is not, it is absolutely helpful. Like, having support in the way that you want to offer it is excellent. Like, please don't undermine what you can give.
So I guess the bottom line for Bob and his friend then is that Bob can continue on being that wonderful support.
Absolutely, and it will
You can
be
hear it in
helpful.
his voice how wonderful he is and
Yes.
how much he
Yeah.
cares.
Yes.
But to really get the job done and get past that plateau of 90 days,
Yes.
he's got to do what? His friend's got to do what? Find the sponsor,
Find a
right?
sponsor,
Right.
yes, yes. And maybe
right.
one more thing I'd like to say to you, Bob, is you said that you want to be a guardian angel. Remember, you cannot be in charge of somebody else's recovery. If that person does relapse, it has nothing to do with your willingness and your desire to help her.
Yeah. Hey,
Don't take
Bob.
that on.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for calling. What a great call to start our show off with. I've always said safe forums, and it's a forum, a safe haven for everyone to discuss, on topic or perhaps general questions. And I'm so glad you picked up the phone tonight. And we too can also be a resource for you and your friend. I hope you keep watching. Let's go down to line 1, and Ike's calling in tonight from Toronto. Hello there, Ike, it's your turn. Go ahead.
Hello, this question is for Dr. Tarman.
Hello? Hello, Ike?
Dr. Tarman, what are your recommendations when it comes to withdrawal off of methadone, like as far as tapering, a blind taper, and dosage?
If we were allowed to do blind tapers, that would be the magical solution. Not knowing what it would just be so helpful, but it's not allowed. We just cannot allow that. The pharmaceutical industry, it's just technically not allowed to do that. So then the best thing to do would be really to do a slow taper, but a regular taper. Like, you want to do it. But very slow. It depends. If you're willing to be uncomfortable, you can do a quick one. But if discomfort is going to put you into relapse mode, then don't do it. But it's quite possible to do a taper, depending on what dose you're on, and get off within 6 months to a year. It's quite possible.
Dee, did you want to add anything? You don't have to if you don't want to.
No, I leave those questions to a medical expert. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Ike.
Yeah, thanks for calling in, Ike. Let's go to line 2 now. And calling in from Ottawa, our nation's capital, is Gord. Hi there, Gord. You're live on Living Clean, Living Well. Go ahead.
Hi, Merry Christmas to you. Icons there on TV of recovery.
Merry Christmas.
And that's the way I recognize.
And I'm glad somebody's
Put
saying
a
Merry
word
Christmas.
to your icons.
Oh, thank you.
One of the reasons I call is because tonight's the actual anniversary of my celebration. I got 30 years clean and sober today.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
Good for you.
Standing ovation.
The checklist,
Yeah.
the one about lower my expectations. That so got me when I saw that one.
Yeah.
And it was excellent. It's like, and then I got fussy about what expectations I would let in, and they were all wrong, of course. But we have something here in Ottawa called In From the Cold, and NA puts on meals and a coffee house and cards
Right
and
on.
Scrabble for 24 hours at Christmas and 24 hours at New Year's. And we also have a dance this year.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So NA is really happy about that in
Oh, yeah.
Ottawa
Yeah.
this year. And of course, I'm just too happy that I lived 30 years clean and sober. I figure, hey, life doesn't owe me a thing at this point. Anyway, I talk too much. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Gord, you do not. Thank you so much. You talk very well, and we're so glad with your input. Glad to hear from you in Ottawa and what you folks are doing there. And he brought up what he's doing. It was, what number was it on the list of helping others, right?
It was
Helping others, number 9.
It was number 8.
Number 9.
Number 8 as well, lowering your expectations.
Yeah, but helping others too,
helping
with the
others.
In From the
Yeah.
Cold.
So
That's what I'm
much.
talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And we do the same thing in Toronto. Most major cities do the same thing. We have
Yeah.
lots of things to reach out to people during the season.
Can I say something about expectations? I do want to say, it's not that you don't want to have expectations, because expectations, you want to have expectations. They get you up out of bed and doing things. The trick here is lower them in the sense of have expectations and then let go of the results. I mean, we have these expectations and we want it to happen. It's really about get out there, be motivated, but then let go of the results.
Awesome,
Yeah.
Let's go down to line 1, and Colleen's calling in from Toronto tonight. Hi, Colleen. You're on our show. Go ahead. You're talking to Dee and Dr. Tarman. Colleen, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hey, honey, it's your turn. Go ahead. Have you got a question or a comment?
I do. I'm having a really hard time right now. I'm 11 years clean from cocaine, and I've got so much on my shoulders and no one to talk to. And
So you reached out to us
I guess,
tonight.
I don't know. I'm just looking for ways to get the devil out.
Are you feeling that you're about to be triggered at all, Colleen?
I haven't used. No.
Yeah.
No, I've smoked some marijuana, but you know, it's not the same. And I've just got. I've lost my legs. I'm in a wheelchair. Well, I have my legs, but I can't walk. I'm in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And I think that took a lot of my life away. And I'm not feeling sorry for myself because it happens. It's life. We go on. But this craving I keep having for Coke, not crack, just Coke lines, is just starting to become overwhelming.
Colleen, I'm going to let you talk to Dr. Tarman right now.
Did you say that you smoked marijuana tonight, or just that you also smoke marijuana? Colleen?
Sorry?
Did you smoke some marijuana tonight?
Earlier.
Yeah, okay. I'm just wondering because that might be contributing to the mood that you're feeling right now. Marijuana is a drug that's pretty potent too. And my suggestion, I have 2 suggestions. One, that even though you might not be doing cocaine, if you're doing other drugs, they are just as mood altering. And even if you're on antidepressants, you're taking drugs that are not going to let those antidepressants do their trick. And if you're not, I mean, in any case, drugs will really alter mood, including marijuana. That's the first thing I want to say. And then the second is, if you, it sounds like you're very alone and alienated or isolated. And I would say, get to a CA meeting. There are a lot of meetings out there, and I'm going to guess that you're not connected right now. I mean, I might be wrong. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Are you connected with any groups right now, like Cocaine Anonymous, anything like that, Colleen?
Nothing.
You see, that's the whole thing, that their number one statement is you're no longer alone when you go to those meetings. I mean, Dee, if you want to...
Yeah, that was the first thing I was thinking. It's just that you're speaking a language that makes sense to me, and my first thought was just we need to get you around people that are speaking your language, Colleen. And you're lucky enough to be in a major city that it has a ton of wheelchair accessible meetings. You know. And CA is an incredibly active program in the city of Toronto. There are a lot of amazing things going on in CA through Toronto. So this is a great time to start getting involved. And because it's this time, people will really wrap their arms around you and embrace you to get you through this silly season. But the first thing is just get to a meeting and make sure that you start opening yourself up to the idea of being substance free, because as long as you're in the obsession, it doesn't matter what the vice, your brain is still operating in a different way, and being substance free means that it allows your brain to be free long enough to start utilizing some other skills. And right now you're still caught in the thick of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It's gonna keep you isolated as well. I mean, when you stop using substances, you'll be able to reach out to people more. And even if you're 11 years sober from cocaine, that doesn't matter. If you go to a meeting and say, look, I haven't been to meetings for a long time. In that sense, I am a bit of a newcomer. Like Dee said, people will put their arms around you.
Yeah. Colleen, does that sound like a good plan? Does that help you?
I know there's always, Narcotics Anonymous.
There's that too, yeah.
Yeah. There's NA, there's AA, there's CA. It doesn't matter where you go. But, you're my people. And you need to be around your own people. you know, that are speaking your language and that know what it's like to have that brain in your mind that's telling you that when things get rough, it would be so much easier just to smoke a joint and stay home and isolate. But that's the disease. That's what it's saying. It's so much easier if it can keep you isolated in that little cocoon, feeding it stuff. It doesn't matter what, you know, what you're feeding it. You need to be around people like me who speak your language so you don't feel so alone. Because what you're going through is making complete sense to me, you know.
Colleen, I sure hope that that helps. Is there anything else that we can do for you tonight?
Well, you know, I have a lot of physical problems too, and it's they're telling me, one doctor tells me 7.5 months she'll be dead. Another doctor tells me, no, it's not going to happen. And it seems like they just don't know. And it's neuropathy, and I've done so many drugs in my life, and I guess I became diabetic and had a bad diet, and things happen. So I guess it's the physical and mental problems and addiction problems as well. So I've really got a lot on my plate.
You do. Do you feel the need for a crisis line right now, Colleen? Do you need to talk to somebody further?
No.
Are you okay?
I feel good. I'm looking at the 3 ladies on the desk there, and I'm feeling a lot calmer.
Oh, I'm so glad, and I'm glad we're here for you. And Colleen, listen, honey, I want you to hang on right now, and I have to go to a commercial break, but I would like you to talk to our wonderful call screener, and she's going to give you another telephone number that maybe you might be able to reach out to as well if you feel the need to talk, Colleen. I think that might be important because we're only here once a week, and I wish that you had more support in your life. So, sweetie, hang on, and our call screener is going to take over this phone call right now. Colleen, God bless, and you look after yourself, and we are always here. And please give us a call back next week and let us know how you're doing, okay? We're going to take another short break here on Living Clean, Living Well, but when we come back, more from Dr. Tarman and Dee Christensen.
I've been through multiple treatment centers with my addiction, fighting it for the last 10 years, 17 detoxes, 3 different treatment centers. But they put me into counseling and everything here after my detox, which was the smartest thing I could have ever done. I got the real demons out of me that I wasn't able to do over the last 10 years with all those other detoxes, all those other treatment centers, from private ones to government ones. And this place is actually giving me my life back.
Hello, I'm Ellen Campbell, the CEO and founder of the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness. As a charity, we depend on viewers such as yourself to support the programs for First Nations, women and children, anti-bullying, and elder abuse. I invite you to visit our website, see what you can do to share. Any donation over $20 will receive a tax receipt. Thank you so much for all your support.
You're watching Living Clean, Living Well, live here on CTS. We are so glad that you have allowed us into your homes once again this Sunday. We're Canada's only live interactive television talk show that deals with addictions and substance abuse and going through trauma and all sorts of things that we are sometimes forced to deal with in our lives. And we're so glad to be with you once again. My guests are Dr. Vera Tarman from Renaissance and Dee Christensen, who is the editor-in-chief from Recovery Wire magazine. We've had lots of phone calls tonight. We are talking about, you know, we're kicking off the holiday season. I put it out there at the beginning of the show. If you have some ideas about what works for you to get through the temptations of this season, please pick up that phone tonight and let us know. And as always, if you have any general questions or comments, our phone lines are open to you as well. Let's go back to our phone lines. Line 7, calling in from Oakville tonight is Dave. Dave, you've been very patient. Thank you for waiting. It's your turn now. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening, ladies. I just tuned in to the show to see you, Dr. Tarman. My personal recovery began about 15 months ago, where I did meet you, Dr. Tarman, and then entered Renaissance. and I'm happy to say that I'm sober now about 15 months.
Great.
My comment is in regard to sponsorship. What I'd like to say is that, of course, it is important to have a sponsor, as I got one as I left Renaissance. But recently, I became a sponsor myself, and I wanted to comment on the importance of being a sponsor. Because I had a great experience today. I went to visit my sponsee in recovery, and the fact that he's doing so well, and I want to comment on how much it helps me in my personal recovery to see the miracle of recovery in someone else that I'm working with closely help me so much is also important from the sponsorship point angle. So I just want to comment on how important it is to be a sponsor, not only have one, but to be one.
Oh, that's great.
So great.
Yeah, you know, Dave, thank you so much for calling in. First of all, to say that it's always so nice for me to hear when somebody's doing well 15 months later when I saw them at the very beginning. But, you know, I hope, Colleen, that you're still listening, because my guess is that one of the reasons why you might be afraid to ask for help is that you think that you're going to burden somebody. But, you know, as Dave is saying, no, you're giving back as well, because the sponsor will get something from your call. I don't know.
It's so true. I don't know about you, Dave, but when I started sponsoring, it was like it turbo boosted my recovery. Like it was, however much recovery I had, it supercharged it, because suddenly you have these people that are looking to you for input, and it's making you want to apply yourself even more to your own recovery. It's such a blessing.
It's like what we were saying earlier. You have great advice, but you have to start listening to it. So it forces you to listen to your own advice.
Exactly. Exactly. What a great comment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, thanks so much for calling in tonight and sharing that. That's great, because it goes back to our phone call that we had with Bob as well earlier on the show. Yeah. You know, it's still, I'm wondering, it's still bothering me a little bit about trying to find a sponsor. And it seems that Bob's friend is either maybe unwilling, because coming up to that 90-day mark that they were talking about that she can't seem to get past, but the fact that she can't find one, I'm just very, very curious what your thoughts are. Like, I'm not in the recovery community. I always say I'm just the TV traffic cop, and I'm so glad to be here with you, providing my job, because I know television very well. But tell me, from the recovery community, is it difficult to find a sponsor?
Well, you know, that's a relative. That's relative. What I would say is that it depends on what your aim is. For me, what I would say, more importantly, it's important to work through the steps. So if you're not in a place where you feel ready to reach out to someone to ask them to be your sponsor, for whatever reason that's frightening you, because there are hundreds and thousands, like if not millions of people in recovery around the world. So the idea that there is not a surplus of people available is impossible, and being a sponsor is part of the 12 steps. So there is availability, but if something's holding you back, you know, what you could do instead is ask someone to take you through the steps. It's sort of a less invasive way, a less committal way to get what you need, because that's really the important thing, is to learn how to live in recovery and to learn how to get through the steps. So that's a great second option.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I hear people saying when they're reluctant to get a sponsor is they want somebody who is smarter than them, has a better job, does better, and they can't find somebody, especially people who are very intellectual. They think, well, I want somebody who's, you know, at my level, and you don't have to be. You just have to have somebody who's learned how to be sober and learned how to live a good life with sobriety.
Let's go back to our phone lines now. Calling in from Toronto tonight is Terry on line 5. Hi there, Terry. You're live on our show. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you? My question is for Dr. Tarman. I'm in and out of recovery, and unfortunately right now I'm not in recovery. And what I have a problem with right now is some of the effects I'm feeling from my long-term addiction are starting to feel that I'm never going to be able to recover. I mean, I know the solution is to stop, but what my question is there some kind of time where you should start feeling effects of feeling better? Because I'm almost feeling to the point now where it's almost too late, and it discourages me from staying, getting clean, because when I think that I'm never ever going to feel better physically, I think it's too late, if that makes any sense. And I know that's not the case, but I know Dr. Tarman probably has some inspiring words about how you could start feeling better.
I don't think it's ever too late to try to go into recovery. It's possible. It's possible that there might be some damage that's not reversible. But I'll bet you that in recovery, you will get back enough that you'll be able to live a full and happy life. But sometimes it takes a while to get to that place. And if you're trying to do it alone, this is why we really stress don't do it alone. Because that first 3 or 4 months is sometimes bitter. That's the time when people think, oh my God, it's too late. I mean, I got to tell you, sometimes it takes up to a year to feel okay, which is why we again say don't do this alone, because you'll have somebody like a sponsor that will say, hang in there, it's going to get better. It might take another month, but it's going to get better. But bottom line, it's never too late. I've seen people at the age of 70, 75 get sober, coming in through Renaissance at 75.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dee, did you want to comment?
I guess all that I would say is just that I didn't actually believe it would work until probably like year 2 or 3. So my belief that things were going to get well was like that was beside the point. What I was doing wasn't working, and it was only making matters worse. So I didn't come to some conclusion where I thought, you know what, I believe this is going to happen for me. No, to be honest with you, I really didn't. I didn't have any delusions of grandeur. I actually thought it wasn't going to go anywhere. But, you know, it was like...
How honest of you.
Yeah, I may as well start going right, because going left isn't working. What else do I have to do? And there are more people on the right side that seem to be happier than the people on the left. That's really how romantic the decision was. And I'll have 8 years clean on Christmas Eve.
Wow.
So,
congratulations.
Thanks.
Christmas Eve.
I know, what a weird sober day.
The silly season,
I know, the silly season.
Hey, Terry, I hope that the comments from my panelists tonight have helped you, and I hope that you keep watching our show as well and use this as a resource for you. And thanks again for picking up that phone tonight. Time for another short break. The time is just flying tonight.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I'm going, what? Another break? But yes, it's time. A short break, and we will be back with more of your phone calls because we got them lining up. Tonight we're talking to Dr. Tarman and Dee Christensen. We'll be right back.
It's scary to think that you're going to live the rest of your life without drugs and alcohol when it's all you've depended on. But there is hope. I knew I couldn't do it alone, and treatment allowed me the chance to ask for the help that I needed in order to believe that I could live a sober life. I got the help and support that I needed, and even now that I've left, I still have that support there.
Hello, I'm Ellen Campbell, the CEO and founder of the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness. As a charity, we depend on viewers such as yourself to support the programs for First Nations, women and children, anti-bullying, and elder abuse. I invite you to visit our website, see what you can do to share. Any donation over $20 will receive a tax receipt. Thank you so much for all your support.
Statistics state that it is likely you know a victim of abuse. It could be a friend, a relative, a colleague. It could even be you. 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 5 boys will be sexually abused before they reach the age of 18. Please give them hope. Help us make it stop. Go to abusehurts.com and give to the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness.
Welcome back, everybody. My guest tonight, as ever, the wonderful Dr. Vera Tarman from Renaissance, and Dee Christensen, who's wonderful in her own way, too, from Recovery Wire magazine. And just before we get back to your phone calls, I just wanted to mention the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness is the presenting sponsor of this show here on CTS. They're doing their big fundraising campaign, folks. If you can join in, you just tune in to Q107, the mighty Q, John Derringer and his great morning team, and they are doing a big fundraiser for us from December 1st to the 13th, and it is wonderful. And I'm really hopeful that perhaps you might be able to tune in and hear about a way that you might be able to help some families in need this Christmas. Back to our phone lines now. Let's go to St. Catharines now. Calling in on line 6 is Sharon. Hi, Sharon. Go ahead. Have you got a question or a comment for Dr. Tarman or Dee tonight?
I've got a comment about safety for the holidays.
Good.
In recovery, especially, I quit November 6th, 26. And I was really worried the first year about the holiday season. It was kind of funny when Dee mentioned that she quit on the 24th.
Yeah.
And I found it very, very important to have an escape plan for those functions that there was going to be a lot of alcohol for, have the excuse ready in mind, know what was going to trigger me, and have a way out the door, ride home, somebody supportive to get me out of a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
And even with my own family, like I've never had to leave Christmas dinner to go to a 12-step meeting, but there are a lot of times where I left early just because there was so much alcohol around.
And it's important to give yourself permission to do that, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah, I know there was one gentleman that called. He said his car is always parked down the street, so he's never getting blocked in. And he says, I make no apologies. When I've had enough and I just don't want to watch it anymore, I'm to that car and I'm gone. Right, Sharon?
Correct. I mean, there's so many people that stress about it so early.
Yeah. So Sharon, what works for you the best getting through the holidays?
I stay with my 12-step group, always have a phone number with me, and I do. I plan on leaving early. I drive myself, and I leave when I have to. Like,
And Sharon, don't you find that the support you get in the meetings, so many of us are going through it, that for me now, Christmas has become the kind of energy in the rooms equal, if not a little more so, than the Christmas I have at home sometimes. That's actually become more the holiday celebration for me.
it is for me, too. It's far more spiritual for me than it is at home. And they are my family of choice.
Yeah. Hey,
So
Sharon, Dee said it best. She just said, right on. You're awesome. Thanks for calling in tonight. Let's go now to line 1, and Dorothy's been waiting on the line patiently from Hamilton. Hi, Dorothy. It's your turn now. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to ask Dee, did Dee ever work at Mohawk College, do editing? Do you remember doing my paper for recovery on drugs, Dee?
Did I ever work where?
Mohawk College.
I don't think I did, but it's possible someone with an equally amazing haircut did. Is that possible, Dorothy? I am a writer, though, but I don't think I did.
That was Mohawk College that you mentioned, right, Dorothy?
Yeah, and she used to edit papers in the English department.
No, but it sounds like whoever she is was fabulous.
It's probably a job you'd like to have.
Yeah, it would be one of the jobs I would like to have. So if that position is still available, you can absolutely forward me. And the next time you need a paper, Dorothy, I will be happy to edit it for you.
You know what? Everybody says you've got a twin out there. And I get
my
that.
doppelganger.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I get that a lot, too. Do you get that, Dr. Tarman? Where it
I
says,
have, yeah.
I've seen you before.
Unbelievable thought.
Yeah.
There's apparently somebody in Toronto.
That looks
Yeah.
just like you, yeah. And then a lot of people say, my sister looks just like you. You know, it's funny. Yeah, you're right. We've got our doppelgangers out there.
Yeah.
So thanks, Dorothy. Thanks for checking in, but it wasn't Dee.
Wasn't me.
Let's go now to line 8, and Ray's calling in from Toronto. Hi there, Ray. Have you got a question or a comment tonight?
Good evening. How are you?
We're doing well.
And Merry Christmas to the three of you. First of all, I've had the opportunity to meet Dr. Vera Tarman this summer. We were involved in a recovery day down at Allen Gardens, and I've also had the opportunity to meet Dee as well through Recovery Wired magazine. There's a few friends of mine. We started playing music at clean and sober dances, and we call ourselves Serenity Sound Crew. And I just want to thank Dee for advertising that in her magazine. But I just want to piggyback on something that one of your last callers had mentioned, and I think it's very important for us in recovery. I'm just a little over 4 years clean and sober, and it's very important that we're aware of our surroundings when we do go to our families' events, because they are what we like to call in the rooms normies. They're able to have the occasional drink and that, and when we're involved with everything that's going on and getting caught up in all the hoopla and everything, it's very important that we do have that out, that we have that phone number that we need to call our sponsor, call another member of the fellowship, and leave if we have to, and not feel any shame or guilt or for doing that. I think it's also very important throughout the month of December that that we stay close to the fellowship, being whichever fellowship that it is that you're with. There's a lot of gratitude candlelight meetings that go on throughout the month of December, and I think a lot of service work is very important to it. Kind of keeps you in touch with what it is that helps us stay and get to where we are today. So I just wanted to share that with you and your panel there tonight.
Thank you. Hey, Ray, before you go, give another shout out to the name of your band. What is it?
Serenity Sound Crew.
Ah, Dino.
We're SSC, which stands for Serenity Sound Crew, and Dee can touch on a little bit of that for you. And yeah, it's we're very grateful to be blessed to have this opportunity to do this because what it allows people in early recovery to do is, because a lot of us, we're just used to drinking and doing drugs and going out to a club. But when we can go into a very good environment and be clean and sober and realize we can still have just as much fun, clean and sober, that's what it's really all about. And we're just grateful that we're able to allow people to experience that in recovery.
Yeah.
And we're grateful that you called in tonight, Ray. Thank you so much. Let's go now to line 2, and Dave's calling in from Midland. Hello, Dave. Good to hear from you.
Hi, Teresa. How are you?
Oh, we're doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I just wanted to touch a little bit on sponsorship. That fellow that called in and he's not in recovery. I mean, that's great that he's supportive of the person he knows, but she definitely has to find a sponsor. And like Dee said, there's no set rules on sponsorship. I mean, I've seen people that have 40 years of sobriety, and I wouldn't want them as a sponsor for me because I just don't like their sobriety. You know, and I see people that have like 20 years, and they have someone that has 3 years that's their sponsor. You know, I think the important thing for me, in my sponsor, is that he has a sponsor.
Dee, do you want to comment?
You know, for me, what's important is just that they have what I want, and what I want isn't necessarily materialistic. I don't know if that's how you feel, Dave, but for me, it's just important that they have what I want, that they cope in a way that I want, that they, they're living their life in a way that in the movie version of my life, those are the characteristics that I'd like to have. That's the way I'd like to survive tough situations, so that in the worst of it, the person you're reaching out to is the person who's going to say the things you know that you need to hear.
You know, Dave, I want to bring you into a conversation here between you and Dee, if I may. I want to know, a very dear friend of mine is in recovery. And here's the question. How do you know when a sponsor and a sponsee relationship has gone toxic? What do you do? Dave, your thoughts on that?
How do you know?
Yeah. And when is it wise to step away from a relationship that has gone toxic?
It's always wise to step away from a relationship that's gone toxic, whether it's sponsor or friend or family.
Easier said than done, though, because my friend struggled with this. He knew he wasn't getting what he needed from his sponsor, and it was a long-term relationship. It had gone years and years and years and years, and then finally it became so acrimonious that finally the one did step away. But Dee, what do you think about when a sponsorship, sponsees, when it's not working?
You know, I have to say that anyone who knows me in recovery who's watching right now is laughing because they know what I'm about to say. I have a rule with my sponsees that they have to attend Al-Anon. Now, they don't need to attend Al-Anon forever, but for me, the first thing I would say is if you want to be a good sponsor, you need to attend Al-Anon at least for a little while, at least once, so that you understand the dynamics of being in a working relationship with an alcoholic.
What's Al-Anon?
Al-Anon, that's exactly what Al-Anon is about. Al-Anon is a program for people who have relationships with alcoholics, and that is a really great way to learn how to have a healthy exchange with an alcoholic. And anyone, whether you're an addict or not, you know, that's a really great way to learn how to be a good sponsor, so that when it comes to that point where you know it's time to let go, it's not so awkward, because it is a difficult thing.
Yeah, because you learn how to say no.
That's right.
Make
You learn
boundaries.
boundaries. You learn that it's not about you. You know, and in learning that, then when someone comes to you and says, you know what, I'm just not getting what I need from this anymore, you know to detach and not take it personally, because it isn't about you. They need to get what they need. But if you don't know those healthy, you know, for me, Al-Anon is a really great resource for learning some of those skills in a concentrated way. You know, it's a great resource.
Good point. Did you want to follow up, Dr. Todd?
No, you said it perfect.
Good.
That's good. Yeah.
Hey, Dave, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Hey, hun, give me, what's one of your best coping ways to get through this season, the holiday season?
Well, you know, I don't have any problem with the holiday season anymore. I mean, you know, I've been sober for almost 15 years. But when I first got sober, you know, if I had to go to a function and I thought I was going to be uncomfortable there, I brought somebody with me that was in the program, and you know, and you keep referring to parking where I'm not going to be trapped in, and I believe it was me that said that to you.
Actually, it was. Way to go, Dave.
You know, there's all kinds of ways. I mean, I don't feel bad if I have to leave. You know, even early on. You know, because I mean, this is a matter of life and death for me.
Absolutely.
You know, and you know, and I want to get back to the sponsor thing. You know, a lot of sponsees feel a little guilty if they try to say, hey, you know, this isn't working. But again, this is our life, and I mean, it's a matter of life and death. And if it's not working, it's not working. Yeah. And I've never had a sponsor that is really that has been upset when I've said, hey, you know, and it's usually not working because of me. It's not because of my sponsor.
Yeah.
Or you're just in different places.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can happen too.
Yeah, it's the same as a therapist, you know, a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's not a good fit anymore. Yeah.
It's an evolution.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, thanks so much for calling in. Don't be a stranger through this holiday season, okay?
I'll try not to.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you. We're going to take our final break here on Living Clean, Living Well. When we come back, we're going to have some final thoughts as we talk about, boy, we've had a great show on a number of different issues, but mostly coping through the holidays. Our guests are Dr. Tarman and Dee Christensen. We'll be back to wrap this up right after this.
I've been through multiple treatment centers with my addiction, fighting it for the last 10 years, 17 detoxes, 3 different treatment centers. But they put me into counseling and everything here after my detox, which was the smartest thing I could have ever done. I got the real demons out of me that I wasn't able to do over the last 10 years with all those other detoxes, all those other treatment centers, from private ones to
Welcome back to Living Clean, Living Well. It's that time of the evening when we ask for final thoughts. Go ahead, Dr. Tarman. I really like where you're going on this one. I'll let you introduce it.
Yes, my final thoughts are to one of the last callers about talking about Serenity Sound Crew. Gosh, I'm stumbling. I'm sorry. What I really like about what he said is the idea of celebrating sobriety, and you know, Christmas is a time to celebrate. At least that's what we want. And you know, it's up to us. It's up to people in recovery to celebrate sobriety in a way to show other people that you don't have to be sloshed and overfed to enjoy a happy season.
Yeah, I back you on Serenity Sound Crew. Recovery War magazine supports them entirely because this is a group of guys who got together who are in recovery and who wanted to make sure that you could still do raves and go listen to house music and trance and you know and have a good time in a safe environment with your own people. And they're just an amazing group of people, and that's the way to celebrate recovery.
You had one of those events.
Yeah, you know, you can use these guys. People use them for weddings, for huge events, but we use them for an event. Yeah, the music is. I never thought I would be able to go to a rave again. again without being on ecstasy and a lot of junk.
And I'm over 50, and I thought, there's no way I can stand that music, but I loved it.
Awesome. So there you go, Ray. A short little shout out for you there. Hope that helps. And thank you, folks. Thanks for joining us. I'll be back with you next week. Thanks to Dr. Tarman and Dee Christensen.
Living Clean, Living Well has been brought to you by Freedom from Addiction and is a presentation of the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness.
I've been through multiple treatment centers with my addiction, fighting it for the last 10 years, 17 detoxes, 3 different treatment centers. But they put me into counseling and everything here after my detox, which was the smartest thing I could have ever done. I got the real demons out of me that I wasn't able to do over the last 10 years with all those other detoxes, all those other treatment centers, from private ones to government. I've been through multiple treatment centers with my addiction, fighting it for the last 10 years, 17 detoxes, 3 different treatment centers. But they put me into counseling and everything here after my detox, which was the smartest thing I could have ever done. I got the real demons out of me that I wasn't able to do over the last 10 years with all those other detoxes, all those other treatment centers, from private ones to government.